Yes, my friends, it is that time of year again. It's Memorial Day, a day where we remember and honor our fallen officers, war veterans, war heroes, and firefighters who have lost their lives in the line of duty. So, as a possible request, I ask that you join me for the next 15 seconds in silence and remember those who have lost their lives for us. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into the whole point of this video. Railfanning Memorial Day weekend in Marion, Ohio, along the NS and CSX lines. Marion, Ohio, often at times, has been known as the train-watching capital of Ohio. Well, rail traffic kind of fell off for a little bit, but has recently been picking back up. Marion is the home of 4 former railroads. The New York Central and the Erie used to race each other from Galion to Marion. The C&O crossed over on the western portion. And the NS's Sandusky District, once PRR and NNW, also follows the C&O sub south to Columbus. It was PRR at once and then eventually sold off to the Norfolk and Western for coal business mostly. Our first train of this Memorial Day Sunday was westbound Autorack train M217. 217 is daily Autorack empties out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, headed back to Louisville, Kentucky. He'll make a left turn at Sydney, Ohio onto the Toledo sub. The track that M217 is running on used to be completely separate line from the inside track. The one that 217's on is the ex-Erie main line. Going west, it would run towards Lima. Going towards the east, it would run towards Mansfield, where it would cross over the NYC in Galion. Over in Galion, the NYC would come in from Cleveland and cross the Erie. The two would parallel each other all the way into Marion, heading west, and then would go their separate ways just about a half mile to the west of us. After M217 cleared, we began picking up a radio conversation between the Mount Victory sub-dispatcher and train I-131. Moving over to Silver Street on the C&O, we see I-131, who had just gotten a fresh crew and is coming west. I-131 is daily Detroit, Michigan to Salem, Illinois to the Union Pacific. From there, the train runs down to Mexico. He's usually intermodal and manifest, but today he's just all intermodal. A CSX ES40DC and a Union Pacific SD70AH. Of note of the Ace are the shiny new trucks it's riding on. This train and his counterpart, I-132, used to run the Toledo branch out of Toledo down to Ridgeway and then make a right turn onto the Mount Victory sub in Ridgeway. But nowadays, they come into Marion and go up and down the C&O to and from Toledo to get to and from Detroit. The next train on the docket came over on the Sandusky District, with northbound intermodal 267 on his daily trip out of Columbus heading back to Chicago, Illinois, with two NS AC-44 C6M GE rebuilds hauling this train. This train comes north out of Rickenbacker Yard, a little bit south of Columbus. The train will go north up to Sandusky where it will do some work, and then turn west onto the Chicago line to head towards Hammond, Indiana. After 267 got out of the way, southbound manifest train 18W with a pair of C6Ms sandwiching a GEVO, heads south at Marion's AC Tower. 18W is daily Bellevue, Ohio to Winston-Salem, North Carolina manifest. Shortly after 18W cleared, land barge manifest M364, daily Avon, Indiana to Selkirk, New York, heads eastbound on the former NYC track in Marion. M364 is anywhere between 100 to a little over 200 cars most of the time. He gets the nickname the Land Barge, him and his counterpart M363 do, and today was no exception. A little bit later, over at Kenton Avenue on the Mount Victory sub, we see CSX loaded grain train G679 coming off the C&O and using the connector to get onto the Mount Victory sub. This train is coming out of Upper Sandusky, Ohio, and will go down to Mobile, Alabama. He'll turn south onto the Toledo sub at Sydney, Ohio. Moving back over to AC Tower, we see loaded coal train C700 coming west on the former Erie track. C700 is as-needed coal loads out of Newell, Pennsylvania to Stylesboro, Georgia. He'll come back in a few days empty for more coal loads. Marion's AC Tower used to stand over on the other side of the Indy line. After the Conrail split between CSX and NS, the tower was moved over to the station side to be preserved. It's a good thing too, otherwise we wouldn't be able to get such overhead shots like this. Next up was NS Train 19W. This is a manifest out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina to Bellevue, Ohio. He's the counterpart to the 18W we saw earlier this morning, but with BNSF GEs leading the way this time. If you're lucky, you can get a race between NS and CSX over on the CNO. Such is the case as happened here, as at the same time 19W is passing, a northbound empty grain train heads north on the CNO line towards Walbridge. Of note is the Dash 8 unit trailing third. About a little bit later, after both the north and southbounds on the NS and CNO trains cleared, CSX westbound M205 took his turn across the diamond. This is a daily Buffalo, New York to Louisville, Kentucky empty auto racks. I'm not exactly sure why, but M205 would stop on the diamonds for about 5 minutes, blocking both the NS and the CNO line. In any case, it was only about 5 minutes until he started getting going again. After M205 cleared the diamonds, next up was NS northbound 41N. This is empty grain loads out of somewhere in West Virginia. I'm not exactly sure on his destination. Next train after 41M was NS 179. This 179 had issues the day before and as a result had to tie down south of Attica Junction. But today he finally started going after setting out a bad car. .179 is daily Bellevue, Ohio to Irondale, Alabama manifest. Once this train gets into Columbus, it'll swap crews and then head west on the Dayton district towards Cincinnati. This guy only had about 2 hours of crew time left, so they had to get him in a hurry to Columbus. After 179, it was time for M363 heading westbound on the Indy line. M363 is daily Buffalo, New York to Avon, Indiana manifest. He's usually sometimes about as long as M364, but not today. Now it was a start for another NS southbound parade. There had been an issue up towards Attica Junction, and the dispatcher had finally gotten a bunch of NS southbounds free. First up was this one, a pair of AC-44 C6Ms sandwiching a Dash 9. This train was laughably short, only 16 cars. It's possible that it could be 116 out of Bellevue daily to Columbus, but I never got its train ID. Next up was another southbound on the Sandusky District, NS-276. This is daily Chicago, Illinois to Norfolk, Virginia intermodal, with a stop to work Rickenbacker Yard in Columbus. After 276 cleared, NS train 28N followed him south. This is daily Chicago, Illinois to Charlotte, North Carolina intermodal with some trailers. A special surprise and treat was the Pennsylvania Railroad Heritage Unit 8102 third out. He's technically on home rails since the Sandusky District was at one point Pennsylvania Railroad. After 28N, a surprise on the C&O. Southbound loaded ethanol B651 out of Chicago heading for Tampa, with BNSF and NS Power leading the way. After B651 cleared, next up was westbound Manifest M331 on the Indy line, with CSX, NS, and Union Pacific power. This train comes out of Cumberland, Maryland daily and terminates in Avon, Indiana, just outside Indianapolis. Here's a fun fact about M331. Before PSR, he used to be 3 different trains. The Autoracks were its own train going west, the Manifest was its own train going west, and the Intermodal was a separate train all on its own. Same thing with his counterpart M332. But when PSR happened, they just joined all 3 trains together, which saves a little bit of time and money. After 331 got out of the way, CSX rack train M216, who had just finished his work here in Marion, heads eastbound along the Indy line. M216 is the counterpart to M217, but this time with loaded racks out of Louisville, Kentucky, going to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania's Greenwich Yard. In about a couple days, this same power would usually come back on M217. But that remains to be seen. Right after M216 cleared, the next train up was southbound intermodal NS266, daily Chicago, Illinois to Columbus, Ohio intermodal, with a solo BNSF GEVO in the point. This train had been part of the southbound backup around Attica Junction and is finally on the move through Marion. After 266, the southbound parade wasn't quite over yet. Next up was a second 179. This train was today's 179 as he had come out of Bellevue earlier in the morning. But due to the southbound backup at Attica Junction, he didn't get down here till about 5 hours later. Due to the backup I mentioned, this guy only had about 2 hours left to get the train into Columbus, where another crew could take it on to the Dayton district and on towards Cincinnati. This 179 was of pretty good size, but he had something special that I had been wanting to see. the NS 8098 Conrail Heritage Unit mid-train. Our last train of the day would be southbound intermodal NS 271. 271 comes out of Detroit, Michigan, and heads down to Norfolk, Virginia, with an SD70 ACE solo on the point. I hope you guys enjoyed this little outing on Memorial Day weekend. Make sure to like the video and check out many more. I'm CSC Productions, and I'll see you again soon.